had some recent listener comments that were really good and kind of helped me challenge some thinking here. And so I wanted to have a kind of a shorter video on this one. One of them was from 1-800-SCOTT, and they're in the Lost Gems of Genesis and listening to it. They basically brought up the idea of, what can we conclude about the changes in the reboot from the flood, going from the antediluvian era to the post-diluvian era? And is God experimenting? Is he learning? And he also commented that that's not generally something he'd buy into. So what did we get out of the pre-flood experience? I thought that was an excellent point, because there are times where the Bible makes it sound like God is learning or reacting to or making changes according to what's happened before. And so it gives that impression of something kind of unexpected or learning from this experience. But at the same time, just like Scott, I'm not believing that. And the reason why is because I'm a strong proponent that God knows the end from the beginning. He's seen the whole thing. Everything was present before him. So how does this work together? Now, just going off the cuff here, but to me, I'm a big proponent of God using natural consequences to get things done. To bring in another quote that's from the Bible, you'll see certain times where God says he will cause them to be cursed to the third and fourth generation because of these sins. Now, does that mean that God is punishing the children for the sins of their parents? No, and here's why. What's happening is the natural consequence of, let's say you have a family who's in the gospel, but one of the children literally goes astray and decides to fight against it. Think about the Nephites and Lamanites, right? It's going to be that not only that child who chose to go astray, but the children for probably 3 or 4 generations are going to continue in that same wrong path as a natural consequence of what happens when the parent goes astray. It's not meant to be God going, oh, I'm just angry at you and I'm going to make it worse for you and your children and your children's children. It's like more of an observation of, if you do this, you are getting this as a result. So how does that apply to the flood? Well, to me, I think there was something in the setup of the Garden of Eden that allowed people's lives to be very long. And then after the flood, because the gene pool would have been brought down to Noah and such, I suspect that the result of the children after Noah was just a natural consequence of that. Was it probably prepared by God beforehand? Yeah, likely. Was it because he saw beforehand the result of everything that happened in the antediluvian era? Yeah, it could be. So in a way, it's mixing natural consequences with the idea of he wants to continue his plan. And if he knows that there is enough evil down here that you either get people who become extremely evil, like the antediluvians that did not repent, versus those who did repent and had the city of Zion and was up with Enoch, that it's like, let's make sure that we have a lot more people able to be down here that has a lot less chance of going to the extremes, so that there's much more mercy involved. I suspect that is along the path or lines to help answer that. It is part of the plan. But it is through this mechanism that it's done. It's kind of using the mechanism of natural consequences with this. And so how we interpret the explanation or what we see from it leads to the descriptions in the Bible the way they are. So hopefully that makes good enough sense. The other one is actually someone who's listening right up on the Prophecy Key to the Future book that I'm reading right now. And there was a few good ones in there. One was, this was from Noah Writing, which was nice, talking about how, I was like, how much weight do I put on these people who are recycling these things that they heard from this prophet, from this prophet, from this prophet? I mentioned that the best source is going to be Joseph Smith and Doctrine and Covenants. 100%. That's right. The ones that's in the Doctrine and Covenants, I'm like on board, right? But he also asked about the earthquake causing darkness, and he brought up volcanoes, which, yes, that 100% could be a part of it. But there's something even more cool that I heard about and I re-looked up as a reply to this. The New Madrid earthquakes from 1811 to 1812. These are, despite the name, it's not in Spain, it is here in America. And it was in the Mississippi Valley. And apparently there's a really big one, I think in Virginia or something like that as well. But here's what it reads from online. The New Madrid earthquakes of 1811 to 1812. A series of massive seismic events centered near New Madrid, Missouri, the southeastern site of Missouri, described the sky turning pitch black from thick, foul-smelling vapor, with no light from lamps able to penetrate the darkness. The earth shook violently, trees cracked and fell, animals panicked, and the Mississippi River roared unnaturally, appearing to flow backward temporarily. So it caused total darkness due to the sulfurous vapor saturating the atmosphere. This cloud of darkness was caused by a combination of sulfur-rich gases, which released from the Earth's crust, and dust and steam from fissures opening in the ground, creating a dense, suffocating haze. The phenomenon is known as earthquake smog, was reported by multiple settlers and scientists as a terrifying and surreal experience. So if we're talking about giant earthquakes that are the likes of which the Earth has never known. Now, they estimate that these earthquakes in New Madrid were about 8.8, right? And so if you get it in just the right area, and especially at the major magnitudes, and we've had some whoppers of earthquakes in recorded history, some that are in the nines, like I think there was one in Alaska, one in Chile, that was in the 9.0 Richter scale. And remember, it's a logarithmic scale. So it's like 10 times as strong for each like one whole number going up. So like earthquake size from 3 to 4 is actually 10 times harder. And from 4 to 5 is 10 times harder than that. And so when you're getting up into the 9 scales and you see the huge like rifts opening it up and other things like that, where there's those major earthquakes, it's huge. It's way huge. Imagine having something like a 10. And even worse, an 11. I can't remember how high it could go before the Earth like splits in half or something. I'm sure XKCD or some science YouTube channel has something on that. But if you have stuff that's if there's, as like I say, my tinfoil hat theory of, maybe there's going to be like this land bridge that's made over the Arctic Ocean where there's a giant uplift. Yeah, that would probably count for like the 9, 10, maybe 11 magnitude region. Where it would cause massive problems. So would there be volcanoes? I'd say yes, because how do you have that much seismic activity anywhere without it affecting the rest of the world? For example, see Io, the Jupiter's moon, Io, the most volcanically active body in the entire solar system. It's just in this perfect range where it's close enough to be really affected by the tidal forces, so it's just constantly being squished just a little bit, and so it's the most volcanically active. And so if anything happens like that, where you have major uplift or swings in density, that's going to cause volcanoes as well. But also you can see from this sulfurous mist that comes up and chokes the light, and it just chokes things out from when it comes to light. This is again one of those little things that I wink and nod towards. Maybe the Book of Mormon's Heartlander. Just saying. Now, like I said, there's great stuff for both sides. So, but there's something in me that just goes, maybe, just saying. So that is what I was thinking and talking about. And I think there was another really good comment that Noah Riding made. Let me see if I can find that here. The idea of multiple appearances of Jesus, the Messiah, before the full-on fantastic, wonderful world appearance is very important. And he's right about that. What that shows is also the idea of suggesting that the Americas will enter the tribulation first before Israel and the Middle East does, could be true. For many years, people have had the idea that the tribulations would be split into 2 periods. 3.5 years each, totaling 7. Oh, that's interesting. If the Western Hemisphere has appearances of Jesus before the main one that lends support to that idea also. Before his coming also, many black swan events will occur. I agree. I never heard of the theory of it being the 3.5 here, 3.5 there, total of 7. That is really cool. I just can't wait for it all to play out. I know there's going to be lots of terrible stuff, but there's sometimes where the anticipation makes it just as bad as the event. And so you have to kind of keep it both in mind of how much worrying do you want to do before you relax and just wait for it to occur. There's a profound movie that I really love that explores this concept, which is A Monster Calls. If you've not seen it, it's beautifully wonderful. It's very touching. It's about a boy who is suffering badly because his mother is dying from cancer. And he's off to his grandmother's in England. And while he's there, a yew tree, maybe he's just going to London because it's all happening in England. But there's a yew tree, which is known for being a healing type tree, that literally uproots itself, becomes this monster, and visits him and starts to talk to him about these stories. And it intermixes with his life. And so it's one of these movies that's a story about storytelling and its effect on the person. And it explores the deep, heart-wrenching honesty of the suffering that goes on waiting for it to happen, waiting for the ultimate end to occur. And I find it very profound. And so when I focus on things like the future and the key to the future and prophecies and destructions that are going to occur, there's a streak in me that goes deeply into that. Yet at the same time, I have to realize that there's so many times I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop, where all the bad stuff is going to happen. And there are parts and times where it's like, is this it? Is this it? Bad stuff is happening. And then it's like, yeah, but it's not apocalyptic. Like literally, the apocalypse of John or the apocalypse of this, the literal like winding up stuff. It's not that, but it's like, that was bad. That was a bad economic downturn for a few years. Because, 2008, and then you had 2020, and so there's still things that are going to be like that occur, but it's like, yeah, but it's not the big one. So I think it's a good idea for us to, it's okay to look and anticipate, but don't twist yourself in knots. And this is more of a reminder for myself than maybe the rest of you, but it's one it's a good thing to understand, because I look forward to seeing how it all plays out. And so I love your comments. I love these ones that really make me think, and I'm glad you commented, and hopefully you'll keep enjoying my other regular readings. With that, it's a short one. Have a good day, and may God's Spirit be with you.